Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Carrow Road. Trying a bit of a different angle today. There are some lawnmowers out, so I'm hoping that we don't get interrupted as we walk through this, because there's plenty to dissect, plenty to discuss. I'm stood at the Barclay end. If I spin you around, you can see some of the new rail seating that's installed, which is very nice. But Norwich City, I guess if you want to call it, their unbeaten run officially of the year and is over. They've been beaten here tonight 1-0 by German Bundesliga two-side FC Magdeburg. A goal from, it was Borja Sainz with the mistake that led to the goal. It might say 11-0 in the title. I apologise for that. Obviously, it was 1. Yeah, look, really, really interesting night. I think there's plenty to ponder, plenty to dissect, plenty to analyse, but equally, as I just tweeted, as the great philosopher Jordan Rhodes once said, it don't matter pre-season in terms of scorelines, and I've said this pretty consistently. It doesn't matter in terms of how the games really unfold. It's about trends, it's about patterns, it's about picking up little teasers and little signs of maybe how the pre-season campaign is going. And I think we have done that. And look, Norwich have only won at Northampton. They've lost against Club Bruges. They drew against Standard Liège, and they've lost here tonight. Of course, I would point people to that famous 2009 pre-season where they were unbeaten, weren't they? And then got beat 7-1 by Colchester. So how much do these things actually mean? Probably as much as you do or don't want them to in reality. This was a really interesting test. Magdeburg, I think, as Johannes Hofterup highlighted, were quite a unique opponent in terms of they were quite man-orientated with their pressing. They pushed quite high, and that suffocated Norwich a little bit. I actually thought for the first 20, 25 minutes, Norwich were very good. The intensity was good. The structure was good. They were moving the ball with real intensity and vigour. And when they did that, they had opportunities. The best two that they had actually came in that spell. One was Borja Sainz peeling off his runner and Kenny McLean clipping a ball in behind. And the second was, again, it fell to Sainz, who was played in just to the left by John Rowe and almost sort of tried to curl a shot into the bottom corner, which was saved. But those were two examples, actually, of Norwich running beyond, which I didn't think they did too much of tonight. And moving the ball with intensity through the line. So there are a couple of phases beyond that. But all in all, I think what will probably really frustrate Johannes Hofterup and Glenn Riddlesholme and the coaching team tonight is probably the build-up element of what Norwich City were trying to do. It was a little bit disjointed, quite clunky. And look, part of that is a natural byproduct of trying to shift style of play. There were moments still where Kenny McLean was trying to drop into the back three and all of this kind of stuff. And it was just a little bit clunky tonight, I thought, and that is natural. We are game 4. This is game 4 of pre-season and of trying to teach a squad of players something completely new, something completely different, and that does naturally take time. And with it comes errors. And you look at the goal, Borja Sainz has done 3 keepy ups, not looked, played a blind pass, and Attic, I think it was, rounded the goalkeeper and put the ball into the back of the net. So those are the type of errors that you would hope wouldn't be made in the regular season when that kicks off in a couple of weeks' time. But equally, this was not a great performance after those 25 minutes. And a lot of that, I felt, as I said, was build-up wise. And Norwich probably struggling to progress the ball. The angles not being quite right to play through. But equally, probably players taking too many touches, not moving with the right speed or intensity of not making passes that they could have played, not taking risks when they should have taken risks, and probably playing too safe and not playing quick enough at points as well. And I think it's interesting now that, Norwich they had 7 defenders on the bench tonight, and I think we're beginning to see a clear pattern now between players who can progress the ball pretty well and players that maybe are struggling a little bit with that. And it's so intrinsic to what this system is and what this style is, that build-up is. Obviously, we've seen the first minutes of Jose Cordoba tonight as the left-sided centre-back. He's obviously come back a little bit late, so he will be the left-sided option, I think. But that right side, I think, does need to be looked at and considered, because there were moments tonight, as I said, where they had opportunities to go and break lines and go and play. And that's when you then get your defenders on the back foot. And because the build-up wasn't quite right, it felt like they were more dependent on attacking transitions, which is kind of where we were, or transitional moments, and exploiting those to create opportunities, which is kind of where we were last season, really. And I'm just not sure that they've unlocked that attacking sense yet, that ability to move from those deeper build-up phases to those attacking phases. They do some really nice stuff. There's some really encouraging signs. I like how when they have the ball in the opposition half, they squeeze their back line really up. Basically every single player by the goalkeeper is in the opposition half. There's a counter press there. I've spoken about the structure pretty liberally here in terms of what we saw in Belgium, what we saw at Northampton. We saw it less so tonight. But there are encouraging signs there. But equally, there are bits that still need to be drip fed into this team, because it's very different. You look at how Norwich played from an attacking perspective last season, where it was pretty much off the cuff. It was a lot of improv. It was a lot of kind of vibes, combinations, those type of things, individual moments. Where Torup wants to take Norwich is more structured. When the ball is on the right side, I want you to be positioned like this. When the ball is on the left side, I want you to be positioned like this. And that means that in every situation, players have a set plan to follow, and that can be really difficult to pick up in the space of 3-4 weeks, as I think we're seeing, and it can make what you're doing look quite dysfunctional and quite clunky at points. And I think that's where we are with this at the moment. It's a work in progress. There's some green shoots. There's some elements that still need watering. And that is naturally going to bleed into the season. I think I've been quite transparent about that all the way through. I think that the troubles that we are seeing in pre-season, in the moments that we are seeing them, they will bleed into the season. And that's where the patience needs to come in, and the trust needs to come in as well. And look, there's some communication stuff that needs to happen with that as well. But there is a lot of positive stuff that Norwich are doing, and I don't think that should be wasted away. I think there's important context tonight as well, in terms of the fact they didn't have a striker, and you think about how important this is, and particularly this game system is, and the way that they want to drop the striker, and you need someone who can link the play pretty effectively. And so that was one issue. I didn't think they had enough runners in behind, probably because of that issue, if I'm being honest. And they play two wingers really who want to come inside, who want to be quite technical with it, and that's fine on one side. But then you need something a little bit more indirect, or more direct on the left side, and someone with a bit more thrust, and just to balance that off. And yeah, look, it was an interesting game. It was muddled. It kind of is what it is, and was where it was. Am I panicking about where Norwich City are? Not really. I think they're probably where I expected them to be. I'm sure in either Hoffenheim and or St. Pauli, they will play better, look better, and probably concerns will die down a little bit. This is their first game at Carrow Road. I don't think that helps anybody. And, the fact that Brad Hills ended the game as a defensive midfielder, and, Jaden Warner was at right back, and Gabriel Forsyth was playing as a number 9 at one point. Elliot Miles was on the left. That sums up, I think, a situation that is still quite experimental. And I think what we'll see now, they're without Gunn, Fashnat, Sargent, Barnes, Eder. There's a lot of players who weren't involved tonight that will be involved going forward, and that are hopefully closing in on a return, coupled with obviously hopefully a few new additions as well. So I think that there's a combination of factors to take here. The fact that this is a squad that is still carrying a bit of excess weight in terms of players that probably aren't going to be in those positions, and we've already seen a few of those get cut, in terms of Jonathan Tompkinson, in terms of Ken Abo. I would expect some more young players, Uriah Jedje, Tony Springett, Finley Welsh wasn't here tonight. We're beginning to see now decisions being made in terms of the squad. That will continue now, I think. And in Austria, I think they will carry effectively the first team group that they will go with. So, yeah, an interesting night. I think it's probably exposed maybe the shortcomings of where Norwich are. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing at this stage. I think it's good because it gives everyone a sense of perspective. Because, as I said, there are elements you simply cannot coach a new style of play in under a month or whatever that they've been back. It's just not possible. It's not doable, and that means that things take time, and you have to have patience for different elements to be built. And I don't want to constantly compare it to Daniel Farke's first season, because that feels a little bit lazy. But I think you can use that as a reference point, in that all of the issues that he had to fix, we didn't see fixed. And actually, we saw a 4-0 at Millwall that had to be adjusted and changed and altered, and that actually result paid off in terms of being really positive in the end, because it helped give Daniel Farke clarity about the direction that he wanted to go, but also probably the changes that his style of play needed. I'm not standing here tonight saying Johannes Hofterup's style of play needs to change off the back of a pre-season friendly. It doesn't matter. But I just think it gives important context for where Norwich are at this moment in time. So, look, I would say don't worry too much. I've seen all of pre-season, every minute so far. There's a little bit of trying to shoehorn people into system, I think, because at the moment I see a squad that needs additions in areas. I still think they need an extra midfielder. I think they need, obviously, 2 left backs probably. I think they could do with a different type of wide option to the ones that they've got. And obviously we could get into a striker debate, couldn't we? Adam Eder obviously had a slight knock. I'm led to believe that's a slight knee issue that he's had in training all week. Nothing Celtic related. Josh Sargent, obviously, there's a degree of caution around, and Ashley Barnes, of course, has had surgery on his calf. So, and I think he's going to probably miss the Championship opener. Torup spoke about a number of weeks for him. So, Fashnak's out with an injury, Gunn's out with an injury. Shane Duffy, we haven't seen much of in terms of this pre-season because he's had a slight knock and obviously some personal issues in terms of losing his dog, which is very sad. So there are, Jose Cordoba's played his first half an hour. There are players, Kenny McLean, this was only his second game, and we saw him come off in the second half. So there's lots of facets there and lots of players that aren't quite where they need to be, and that's probably as expected. And what Norwich and Torrop need to hope for now is that a lot of these players get back to the timelines that we hope that they do, so that we can begin to see some of those combinations that are going to be so pivotal to building on the pitch. And as I said, time is going to be a buzzword because it is going to take that and it is going to be that. And tonight probably exposes just where they are and just how much of a work in progress this is. And, you can't drastically sweep away one style and hope to drastically sweep in another. It doesn't work like that. We all know that. We've seen enough football to know that things take time. So what was tonight, I think it was a really good learning experience. That type of test that they got from Magdeburg, not many, if any, a couple of championship sides play that way. They caused Norwich real problems with the way that they played. I actually felt that the reaction to the goal was not great. What they, and this is where hopefully a bit of durability comes in, because when you're coaching a new style of play, particularly when you're one that is possession orientated and requires a lot of technical aspects, you need confidence. And so when you have a moment like that, and we saw it a little bit of this team, certainly at the start of last season, where a goal felt so impactful, either positively, it really boosted them or really dropped their levels. And I think when you combine where they are in terms of trying to learn a new style of play, you need clarity, you need confidence to do that, intuition as well. Just felt that they lost almost that clarity and that ability to almost process it and to be able to continue what they were doing. Because as I said, I felt the first 20, 25 minutes were positive, and we saw some glimpses of Norwich moving the ball really nicely. And yeah, I think that's kind of where we are at this pre-season. There'll be good bits, there'll be bad bits, there'll be green shoots, there'll be bits that don't look so great, and there'll be dry patches. But that is the whole part of where Norwich are. This is a fundamental shift, and with fundamental shifts needs to be, I feel I sound like a broken record, but there does need to be some acceptance of what that means. So yeah, look, this was a game that Norwich lost because of an individual error ultimately, but Magdeburg created the better chances. They had the better moments in the game because, as I said, they caused Norwich problems with the way that they pressed them, and they got in behind Norwich a little bit too freely as well. So they're a good team. They start their season. It's a bit of a weird situation. They're flying back to Germany tonight to then go and play against Sampdoria tomorrow in a different 90 minutes. And that was about their coach giving, basically splitting minutes across his squad. Norwich did it a couple of years ago in Scotland. So their season starts next week. So again, you're playing a team that's a little bit ahead, not as far ahead as the Belgian teams were, but is a week or so ahead of where you want to be. So yeah, look, I think don't worry about it. That's basically what I'm saying here tonight. I think Norwich have done and are doing enough good stuff that makes me think that those type of performances, they'll happen in the Championship, no doubt about it. They will happen. But there's enough there to make me think that, people don't need to be panicking and whatnot. And look, I know the way that this works. And hey, look, maybe pre-season was better when we didn't have streams and we didn't have coverage of it. But that's life in the modern world, I suppose. And now Norwich go to Austria, and that's going to be a really pivotal trip. As I said, we're going to see a lot of the excess fat around the squad cut off. We're going to see a lot of those young players probably phased out, and we're going to see Torrop take a squad that feels and resembles a lot more probably what it will do at the Kassam Stadium in a couple of weeks. So it's a really important trip. They play Hoffenheim next Tuesday, and then they welcome St. Pauli here next Saturday. Those two games, I think, are going to be really important and give us a lot more clues about certainly the opening day at Oxford and beyond than perhaps this one does. So there you go. Patience, calmness. Don't worry about it. That's my advice from tonight. There we go. I'm going to leave you there in the glorious site of Carrow Road. We're flying out to Austria. We're going to be there from Monday to Thursday, so we'll be there for the next game. You'll have a video verdict from that game in St. Johann. Really looking forward to getting out there. I think it's going to be hot, so yeah, I won't mention the weather because people got a little bit upset that I mentioned that a few times on Saturday. Just a few. I think I got away with it though. But anyway, from Carrow Road, I will say good night, and yeah, I'll see you again on Tuesday. Thanks for watching.